Crime fighting in disguise. It's a new phenomenon, but it's growing at a brisk clip. And Captain Metropolis would like to capitalize on that growth by forming a team. Patriots, heroes. They call themselves the New Minutemen.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my Watchmen Episode 6 video. They revealed the true origin of Hooded Justice, and we went on this crazy trip, so we'll break it all down. If you're new to the channel, I'm doing Easter egg videos for all the Watchmen episodes. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. We're also doing an HBO Now giveaway too. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite moment from the episode on the video. Obviously, careful for spoilers if you have not seen the episode yet, because they reveal a whole bunch of secrets, so we'll do top 10 WTF and Easter eggs as we go along. So starting with number 10, the title of the episode. The title of the episode, This Extraordinary Being, is obviously a reference to Dr. Manhattan in present day, but because this is about the origin of Hooded Justice, and he's supposed to be the original vigilante, the very first person documented to have been a costumed superhero. For example, in the present day of the original Watchmen comic book, the Night Owl character was inspired by Hooded Justice to become a vigilante because he was a police officer just like Hooded Justice turned out to be a police officer that became a vigilante. So everything that the Watchmen are doing in present day flows from the Minutemen, and the Minutemen themselves were also inspired to become the Minutemen and form that team because of what Hooded Justice did. So he's the common point of origin for all vigilantes, making him just as special as someone like Dr. Manhattan, who is literally a functional god in the universe. But number 9, the Minutemen TV show flashback at the beginning of the episode to Hooded Justice being unmasked. So not only does this kind of tell you a little bit about what eventually happened to Hooded Justice with the feds trying to unmask him because of the whole plot with Captain Midnight, which they revealed to be true. He really did have a relationship with Captain Midnight. But it's a bit of a callback to Petey from the Peteypedia that they're running alongside the website for the TV show, who keeps telling them that the TV show gets facts wrong about what really happened. Like when he was in the car with Lori and Angela, oh no, the TV show gets stuff wrong all the time. What really happened was all this, and then he explains the true origin and what was going on with Lori's pain and how her father was the comedian and what really happened to the original Watchmen. But because we know some of these facts were real, what sounds like happened is that Captain Midnight of the Minutemen really did try to blackmail Hoover, who they imply really was in a relationship with him, but because the feds want to cover it up, they're looking for someone who looks a lot like Captain Hoover, and they want to pin it on Hooded Justice, and they've seen him on all the tape that they found in the safe behind Captain Midnight's bed. There was a reference in an earlier episode to skeletons in the closet, mostly referencing the chief's clan robes that he had been keeping secret inside the safe in his closet, but this is also a bit of a callback to that too, Captain Midnight having skeletons in his closet. The meta joke about Hoover in real life is that he was supposed to have been a cross-dresser, but at the same time went after all kinds of people for their religious beliefs, for their political affiliation, so it's implied that's why Captain Midnight was trying to blackmail him, because he would have been also going after LGBT people, who Captain Midnight was a member of that community. But number 8, the nostalgia trip. So Lori explains what nostalgia is to Angela, how they implant special electrodes in their brain, then harvest the memories, then later give it to older people. It was meant to be a treatment for dementia, but then became more of a party drug as people started to take it, people started to get addicted to it, and then they outlawed it, but Lady True owns the business that makes those pills. So Lori has just sussed out the connection between her grandfather and Lady True, so now Lady True is on their radar as a person of interest in what's going on in town. But the first big flashback she has is to her grandfather being sworn in as a brand new member of the NYPD in 1938, right after the Great Depression, but right during the rise of World War II and Hitler. There are a couple references later in the episode to some comic book stuff around that period too. But number 7, he gets the very first warning, beware the Cyclops, from the other black officer. So it's already kind of implied that it's some sort of insidious conspiracy within the police, so you kind of sense what's going on, but they don't reveal what it's really about in the whole mind control plot till later in the episode. One of the first nights on his beat, he runs into that business owner that's tied to Cyclops trying to torch a Jewish business, and that sort of sets off the whole idea of Cyclops within the police department. He sees the other officers stand up for him publicly with all the other officers around, then make the Cyclops symbol, and you start to get a better sense for what's going on. But number 6, if you're a big comic book fan, this is actually a pretty cool Easter egg. the origin story of Superman in Action Comics #1. You probably spotted him walking by the newsstand with the newspaper salesman reading Action Comics #1, explaining to him the origin story of Superman. The reason why this is not only a cool comic book Easter egg because this is around the time where Superman debuted in the comics, right around World War II, it's also a bit of a callback to the Cyclops business owner torching the Jewish business. Superman was created by Jewish comic book creators. They saw a need for a hero, so they created a hero to serve that need, and it's a bit of a metaphor for the origin story of Hooded Justice. He sees a need for heroes, so he fills that need, only in his case it's more literal than metaphorical, as is the case with the Superman created by Siegel and Schuster. So within the world of the Watchmen series, there is no Superman character. He is still a fictional comic book character. Dr. Manhattan is the first real, genuine superhero with special powers. But if you're a comic book reader, you also probably know about Doomsday Clock in present day. Because DC owns the Watchmen comic book property, they brought them into the DC universe, and Doomsday Clock is a big Superman Dr. Manhattan crossover. So within the modern day version of Watchmen's comic book universe, Superman is a real person who exists. But you have to remember that the TV show is based on the original comic book, and when Alan Moore created that, he created it to be very self-contained. There were no other DC or Marvel or any other comic book superheroes. It was just the heroes that he created within that comic book. But number 5, the true origin of Hooded Justice. So he goes back after he sees that the man has been freed because of that whole Cyclops conspiracy, and then gets accosted by the other police officers that stood up for him and then released that man. They put a mask over his head and hang him from a tree till he almost dies, then they cut him down, and after they cut the noose, it looks amazingly like Hooded Justice's costume, so you probably picked up immediately on what was happening the minute you saw them do that. I saw a lot of you months ago when I was still posting trailer videos theorize that his character was secretly Hooded Justice in present day because the color of his clothes are the exact same color scheme as Hooded Justice's comic book costume. But the real point of origin is when he's walking back and he hears the couple that needs his help, so he cuts some holes in the mask so that they won't find out who he is, puts it on, and then beats off the criminals. They thank him, and he winds up in the paper the next day being celebrated for being a hero. Number 4 was Hooded Justice's first official night out. So on his first night out, he decides to go after Cyclops downtown and finds the business owner that they had set free earlier that he had had the run-in with, and it's all connected to the Klan. He finds all kinds of maps and details about their membership going across the United States, implying that the conspiracy is going on all over the country, not just here in New York City. Then as he fights his way into the front of the business, it actually turns into a version of the original Minutemen TV show that they played earlier this season when they were talking about the origin of Hooded Justice. We find out what really happened during these events, and he was actually jumping out the window instead of jumping in to escape the business owner with the shotgun. We get a couple more details about Angela's backstory when Lori sort of walks into her trip trying to help her get out with her husband. She was born in Saigon in 1976. We saw a couple flashbacks to her grandmother at the end of the episode and then the teaser for next week's episode, so we'll find out what was going on in Vietnam when she was growing up pretty soon. But number 3, the true origin of the original Minutemen. We see Captain Metropolis come to visit him after figuring out that he is Hooded Justice. They turn it into a funny moment about trying to hide their real secret identities, but his wife immediately figures out, oh, you are the Captain Midnight guy. You don't work for him. You are the guy. But he tells them that they're forming the Minutemen team and they were inspired by what he's been doing for the past couple of months. They imply it hasn't been that long. Maybe he's been Hooded Justice for less than a year. But because the newspapers have been writing about his exploits and being a vigilante, they were inspired to become vigilantes themselves and form the Minutemen, and they want him to join the team. The big WTF here is actually, though, that Captain Midnight says you're always going to have to wear that mask because there are definitely some racist people that are part of the Minutemen that wouldn't take too kindly to knowing that you are underneath the mask working with them. If you remember the intro to the Watchmen movie where they transition from all the flashbacks with the Minutemen taking their picture, forming the team, then the montage of the present-day Watchmen team forming and taking their picture, they do a version where they're addressing the press after taking down this criminal enterprise, and they take that picture, but the events actually happen very differently from what you remember from that Watchmen intro scene. Will, as Hooded Justice, gets ready to tell the press about this grand conspiracy that he thinks is going on with the Cyclops organization in the Klan, but Captain Midnight stops him because they need the backing of the local banks to fund their superhero exploits in the team so that they can continue to operate as vigilantes, showing the super racist ad basically telling Hooded Justice that we can't tell everyone about all this stuff that's going on because they're also kind of racist and they won't like it if they find out that you're really a black person. Later they pay this off when number 2, he tries to take down the local Cyclops operation by himself because when he calls Captain Midnight doesn't want to have anything to do with it, even though he himself is a member of the LGBT community. But the business owner from earlier in the episode totally doesn't recognize him, offers to give him a payout, or maybe he's gonna beat him up when he takes him to his warehouse, claiming that he's just going to give him some free meat. Shoots him on the spot, then puts his hood on while still wearing his police officer's uniform and guns down everyone inside the warehouse behind the local version of the Cyclops operation. But remember, it's just the one in New York City. Because of all the maps in the Klan organization, it's implied that this is happening all over the United States with different cells. There's an awesome payback moment and a callback to earlier in the episode when he finds the cop who hung him from the tree he nearly strangled to death. He strangles him out with the microphone wire. He burns the building down but carries some evidence home with him, and they do this nice juxtaposition with the flames from Tulsa and him remembering what happened during the original massacre. Whoever did the transitions in the episode deserves an award because of the way they shifted perspective and jumped forward and backwards in time and blended things from the past into present day. We find out a little about why Angela never met her grandfather before, because his wife just doesn't like how crazy that he's become as this vigilante persona as Hooded Justice, leaves him, goes back to Tulsa with their son and says, never bother us again, don't ever try to come around. Then number 1 WTF, they finally reveal what really happened to the Chief at the end of episode 1. He uses a miniaturized version of that original hypnotic projector device to hypnotize the police into forcing him to hang himself. The Chief tries to explain that you don't know what's going on, there's some bigger conspiracy at play, and Will reveals that he knows all about Cyclops, which obviously I think they're going to pay off in another episode or two, because we've actually seen trailer footage in present day of Lori being tied to a chair with this symbol behind her, so this is going to have something to do with the conspiracy that's happening in present day as well. But then you fade in on Lady True, who's helping her out of her trip at her special facility, and it's implied in next week's episode we're going to learn what Lady True's secret plan for saving humanity is. And we get our big Ozymandias trial, find out what's going to happen with him next. But if you spotted any other big Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't mention in the video, let me know in the comments. My Rick and Morty episode 3 video will post next. I've also got a new Mandalorian video that I'm working on that should post pretty soon too, but leave all your requests in the comments below. I'll name a giveaway winner when I post my next DC video. Everybody click here for my Mandalorian episode 3 video, and click here for my Mandalorian Baby Yoda explainer video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.